All right. As we saw at the keynote yesterday, we saw many hands for people that hadn't been to a Unite yet. So usually the way we do things is that, like, on day one, we try to, set up this sort of like polished keynote where everything is sort of like nice and shiny, and then on day two, it's completely different, and we have this sort of like informal roadmap session where instead of, having nice, sexy trailers and everything, we're just a bunch of engineers on stage that like to talk about some of the things that is coming in each area. And it's going to be like a discussion, hopefully, with all of you. We have mics in the aisles. Could we get some lights on the mics? The format that we do is that each speaker will talk about for 2-3 minutes on a certain area, and then we'll take questions for about 4. And then on that specific area, and then we move on to the next, and hopefully, if we don't run all too much over, we'll have 10 minutes of questions for like general topics at the very end. Let me introduce the people on stage here. On the very right is Joachim, CTO of the company. We have I always forget your name. No, I'm just kidding.
Pierre-Paul.
Pierre-Paul, we call him Pipi. He's on the animation team. Wayne from the audio team. Jonas from the WebGL team. Casper on the graphics team. Eric on the networking team. Patrick on cloud build. And I'll be talking about scripting. Did I lose my clicker? Did I just put it in my pocket? Oh, it's here. All right, I hope the format's clear. Maybe at some point, there's a few things of housekeeping I should say. There's a party tonight, and we don't control like the people at the door. And if you don't have an ID and a badge, like they won't let you in. And even if we beg to let you in, they're not going to let you in. So bring an ID, bring a badge. If anywhere in this presentation, we talk about a certain topic, and you think like, oh, I can't believe they haven't made that yet. Why is that? It's because we need some help, and we are hiring in all areas of development. So if you think, screw these games, I want to work on game tech, we have a careers booth on the expo, and please come and talk to us. In the expo booth, there's also a Meet the Experts area. So if what is likely that we won't be able to deal with all the questions that come up right here, or when a question becomes, very specific to a project, I'll ask you to, come see us at the Meet the Experts. We have like the people on stage here are there, and also like the front row here is all engineers. We are there all day, so if you have a question that we're unable to answer here, come find us there. You can actually bring your laptop, bring your project, and just hog us for an hour and just make us look at your project and tell you what we think or how you could do things better. Okay, I think that's it. And for starters, we're gonna go to graphics with Casper. You wanna? It's the green button.
Thanks, Lucas. So we have a lot of stuff coming in 5.3, and I'm not really gonna read through all of this because you can see all of it on the website. I can actually jump back and show you. This is the URL. Go to it, and we have all the items there for 5.3 and 5.4 and so on. So I'm gonna jump to the more uncertain stuff that we are actually working on, and stuff that'll be coming at some point soon. So we have a lot of work going on in multi-threading, parallelizing the command list generation, and this will benefit all the new and modern APIs like DX12, Vulkan, Metal. And we have some fixes in with the mixed mode lighting, something that we kind of broke when moving to 5. So we have something coming for this soon. And also we have a new feature for lighting larger objects with light probes. So if you have a really big object, normally you just get one light probe, which means that you don't get a gradient. So for particle systems and big objects, we can give you much nicer light probe lighting. We also have mobile optimizations for the physical based shader coming. We'll have 3 different hardware tiers, and this will be in reasonably soon. It's almost there. And we have image effects. We will have stuff like depth of field and temporal AA and other good stuff coming. And moving a bit further out into the future, we'll have distributed baking of global illumination data, which means you can use multiple machines. And we are also working on this progressive light mapper, which does path tracing and updates your game view with the backlighting, but it's also a bit into the future, but we're seeing really good results already. And we want to upgrade the lighting pipeline in the longer term to be fully physical, so you specify lighting in real units like watts or lumens, and we can apply IES profiles and have a correct attenuation profile. We also want to look into shadows on translucent objects and transparent objects, but it's still in the research phase. And I'm happy to take questions if you have anything in the graphics area. So step into the aisles and...
the mics are lit over there. Usually the way this goes in the beginning, like everyone's really shy and no one dares to go to the mic. So like...
No one wants to know about Temple AA or any other cool stuff?
There's somebody.
Will you be giving a calibration on your lighting so you could actually get accurate measurements of the Kelvin temperatures? In architectural lighting for this, it'd be great to be able to see that.
At Hack Week this year, I actually worked on a color picker using the Kelvin temperature, so you can do a slider. Say I want a 400 lumen light bulb, 2700 Kelvin. It's something that I have in a branch somewhere that I just need to get in when I have the time. So it's definitely coming.
Hey guys, thanks again. It's been a great conference. Just a question about languages. I know Unity is very invested with Swift, in .NET, but with Swift going open source, is that a possible opportunity for integrating that into Unity itself?
That's not something we're particularly looking at, but I'm so sorry, I forgot to mention. So that I'll address scripting languages in the scripting section, but no, I don't see us adopting Swift anytime soon. Although if there's no graphics questions, we can just take scripting ones. That's. All right, then we're gonna, or is there someone coming up there? Yeah, come up.
Yeah, I had questions about the temporal AA in that, so I've done a little work into this, and the velocity buffer generation is particularly tricky when you get into things like particles and how you do temporal AA, and I was wondering how far you were planning to take that on the initial release?
We have top men working on adding velocity buffer support and temporal AA, so we'll have a solution for that.
Okay, but it's for the whole pipeline?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Okay.
Hey, how's it going? I have a question about baking light maps onto prefabs and not onto the scene. I know in previous versions of Unity you were able to do that.
I can take it.
Yeah, so there's actually a sample project of how you can do that in Unity 5. Okay. Basically, the reason this doesn't work anymore is because previously we were writing out all the data directly into the scene files, which was really bad for reasons of merging scenes and conflicts. Now it's in a separate file, but the whole API is still there, so you just need to write like a 20-line script that actually applies it to prefabs. And there's a forum post, if you search for it, about this with a full demo project and everything.
Awesome, thanks.
All right, Wayne, audio.
Hold on, sir.
Oh, one more.
All right. Quick question. So basically, you're talking about performance improvements and then multi-threaded rendering. Do you guys have any data or numbers talking about what type of improvements you're seeing?
So the multi-threading is about moving stuff away from the main thread. So once all the changes are in, we basically move the entire render loop away from the main thread. And so the performance gains you'll get will be depending on how much work you're doing in the render loop already. But it can be in the tens of milliseconds.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, we're moving to audio with Wayne.
Could I just slip one more question? It's a quick one. Sorry.
Okay, very last one on graphics.
Just about baking light maps onto skin meshes in 5. Is that something? Is that?
We do have a bug on that. That's something that we need to fix.
Okay.
But it's it's not the highest priority right now, but we are aware of it, so we will fix it at some point.
Awesome, thanks.
Okay, now it's really you, Wayne.
Okay, so in Unity and audio, we're trying to address, I guess, 3 broad problems. The first one we do address with the audio mixer, which is being able to, like, I guess, do like mixing and apply filters and do sort of sub-mixing and stuff like that. So that's on the way. And one of the other things we really want to get done is interactive sound authoring. So this is like a top priority for us. In 5.4, we're hoping to have like a really nice sort of low-level API that you can build like interactive sounds with. And this guy's going to be talking a little bit more about a sequencing tool, like a first initial step into a sequencing tool we're hoping to target with 5.4, where you're going to be able to do, I guess, complex interactive sounds, be able to do things like car engines and stuff without actually having to dive into script, which I guess is an important thing for sound designers. So that's the second kind of broad scope that we're addressing, and we're like, this is what we're working on, top priority. And then after that, we're trying to sort of, I guess, fix our sound propagation. This is more long-term, like we don't have a release date for this or whatever. But doing things like, physically based reverbs, proper occlusion systems, yeah, those sorts of kind of making it possible to apply materials like sound materials where you can decide how much of a transmissive material this is or not, or those sorts of things. So these are like, I guess, the 3 broad strokes that we're doing, and we're always going to, like, again, long term, we're going to be improving things like aspects of the audio mixer that's already there, and yeah, obviously bug fixing and stuff. But this is our, I guess, our vision currently. So, yeah, questions? Hit me up.
Hi there. Many of the current audio mixer stuff for 5 are not available in WebGL output. Will that be available sometime?
So I can address that one. So the reason for this is that we use the fmod audio library on all our other build platforms, but that depends heavily on threading support, which we don't have in WebGL yet. I will talk a bit about that later. But that means we need to have a custom solution for audio on WebGL, where we currently use the web audio API provided by the browser. So right now, for this custom solution, we only really offer the most basic functionality of 3D positional audio. And I think that will change once we are able to just get fmod running on WebGL. But to do that, we first need to have threading support on the platform.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello. I was wondering where in your roadmap sound banks come.
Can you give an example of sound banks?
A set of sounds that you can play, that can be selected
Okay.
some set of logic.
Yep. So I guess like this is back to this interactive sound authoring. I mean, doing things like variation, like that's like bread and butter kind of sound design stuff where you have variations and collections of sounds. So this is something that we want to address with this this interactive sound authoring thing. So yeah, definitely we're either going to have, I guess, I haven't like figured out the best solution, whether we want to have like specific assets that are kind of banks of these variations and your set properties, or you have something it's more that you author it, like where it's not really an asset per se, but it's something that you can just kind of create very easily, like with the API that I was talking about before, or the sequencer or something like that. So yeah, definitely on the way.
5.4 or not known?
I'm going to say probably not 5.4, but very soon after that.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Yep.
Would we be able to create the realistic sound propagation with textures? So if I had a wall around a world that was blocking you from exiting to the skybox, could I make it so reverb acts like it goes out there?
Yes.
Would I need to directly script that?
No. So this is the tools that we're talking about here. I mean, again, this is past 5.4. This is something long term, but this is what we're talking about. We're talking about being able to, for example, just create, like the light guys do, where you just have, like, I guess, sound probes in the world, where you can generate, I guess, like, impulse response probes, and then interpolate between those, and it all just works as you're walking around the world and stuff like that. So, yeah. But you won't need to script it. We're trying to get away from scripting. For
Hey,
sound
hey.
It's old. It's old.
Easy there.
It's old news, man.
A question regarding module trackers.
Yes.
Are there any plans to give control over the channels or the instruments for module tracker files?
We don't have anything on the roadmap specifically for that. I mean, we have a lot of ideas and plans for doing general, like, much better channel, like exposing a lot more channel management to users. But in terms of mod files, it's a complex problem. We haven't really got it on the roadmap at the moment, but it's something that we can definitely consider.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi.
Hey.
So, are there any plans to support multiple audio listeners?
Yes. Okay, so
If it were just to get rid of that annoying warning that I always get.
One of the things, so the main problem with I'm not going to talk too long. The main problem with multiple audio listeners is that we've really structured like component effects and stuff wrong in Unity. So at the moment you have component effects on audio listeners which apply to everything, which really breaks when you want to have multiple audio listeners. Like, do you apply, like, it's all coming out of the one sound card, right? So do you just merge all those effects together, and what if they're non-linear, and how do you, it just doesn't work like that. So we want to move to a model where we just basically deprecate that sort of stuff. We allow, like, people to just still have, like, master effects, but it's not really in the scene, which will allow you to actually just go wide with multiple listeners and stuff like that. So yes, definitely want to address that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to take one more question on audio before we move to animation.
Hi, what kind of performance degradation do you expect from real-time audio rendering, like battery-wise and CPU-wise?
That's a tough question. I'm not sure yet. We have to, like, the audio budget on any game is always like this kind of thing. So whatever solution we come up with, we're trying to make it as pre-baked and light as possible. But again, like these days, things like convolution reverbs and stuff, they're actually being like, you know, we're reaching a stage where we're actually able to run those guys nicely in real time on PCs and consoles and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think I'm not like 100%, like we haven't run numbers or anything like that, so I can't give you anything particular, but we're hoping to make it definitely achievable for mobile and consoles and stuff like that.
When you get through your prototyping stage, can you maybe publish some numbers?
Sure.
All right, animation, Pipi.
So yes, animation. So this is a short list of what we are working on. So the first three things are coming in 5.3. So you're going to be able to have live retargeting. So you're going to be, like for instance, if you have a mocap studio and you want just to retarget live to other characters, this is going to be possible. So it's a super tiny API that we did. And yeah, it's in 5.3. We have Euler curves. So you know, if you've been animating cameras, you bring them into Unity, and it kind of resample to Quaternion, and sometimes it's just bad for cameras and stuff like that. So we're going to be able to import Euler curves and even author them in the animation window. We're also improving our additive animation workflow because it was a lot broken before. So we're fixing that. So we're going to be able to do cool additive animation layers. Then later, when we go to 5.4, we have the playable procedural nodes. Basically, in 5.2, we released a playable API, which is really like low-level access to the Mechanim animation. And now we're going to add a new type of feature in this API that will allow you to write your own mixers that blend like with different weight, different body parts. You'll be able to do your own IK, do your own mocap feed inside of the playable graph. We're also hard at work in the sequencer, so Wayne talked a bit about it. We're going to have a sequencer inside of Unity where you'll be able to just like feed in animation, audio, and synchronize them together and make it like really easy to use for you guys instead of just having to write script to sequence to put those two together. And that's going to be a big thing. We have lots of great guys working on that. And then later, and I forgot to write something down there, but we also want to be to greatly improve our keyframing workflow. So we're going to work a bit on the animation window, but we're also going to, for instance, we want to be able to do nice keyframing for 2D animation. So with IK rigs and stuff like that, you'll be able to have intelligent keyframes and really a nice workflow for this. And then in the future, we're working on generic IK, so you're going to be able to do your own custom IK rigs, and then you're going to be able to retarget them. So it's not going to be limited to humanoid anymore. So yeah, that's the stuff we're working on. Hopefully you have questions.
Yes, there a question here on the left?
Yes.
Yes, you mentioned working on the keyframing workflow.
Yep.
Is there any chance that the animation editor windows and support are going to be made more open for people to mod them in the editor, get more access to those internal functions, try to improve that workflow? We see a lot of stumbling blocks with things like animation events. I can't do a custom editor, I can't do anything with this, and it's difficult to make better tools.
So there's a guy that started to work on this yesterday. So I don't have a clear fleshed out plan of what we're going to do, but we know that in my opinion, it's really hard to work with the animation window to do keyframing stuff, right? So we'll keep that in mind.
But is he working on making it better or making it more open so that people can make their own tools?
Yes.
All right, question in the middle?
Good morning.
Hi.
So with the playable procedural nodes, it seems like you'll be able to blend between state machines. Is that correct?
Yes, but this, you don't need the procedural nodes. We already have that in 5.2, which we released last week. So we have, you're able to blend in and out of state machine. You're even able, one nice thing you can do is that you can have the state machine in your props that tell you, because we have retargeting, right? So you can have the state machine in the prop, like in a weapon you're grabbing, and it can tell your character how to use it, and then transition to that state machine.
Okay.
Follow what I'm saying?
I'm still on 4, so I don't...
Yeah, you should try 5.2.
Oh,
awesome.
would love to. So basically, so my question is, will it be possible to have a blend tree where the nodes you blend between will be state machines?
Yeah, today.
Today. You can do that now?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I think I posted something on the forum a couple of weeks ago, but I should check if it's still there. But yeah, I have a demo that does exactly that.
Okay, thanks for that.
Cool.
But it does require you to get to 5.
5.2. 5.2. Yeah.
5.2.
Yes.
So I have a question about much simpler animation. We end up using legacy mostly because we need to do things like play an animation and then know how long it's going to be until it finishes without jumping through a dozen scripting hoops to do it. And so I was wondering if there was any plans for a very simple API to replace the legacy stuff so that we can just control animations the way we want without having to go through a state graph. And
yes, in 5.2, right now, it's there.
Oh, you,
yes.
So what
but that's experimental API.
Yeah, I have to say that. It's an...
Okay, it's hidden.
Don't forget that.
So yeah, it's an experimental, because it will change a little bit, but the thing is there, you're able to just take your component and say play, and you give an animation.
Great.
Almost like I'm saying, but there's a couple of things to do, but yeah, it's possible right now.
Out.
To set the time, set the speed of the animation, it's in there.
Hi. I was wondering if there would be any sort of scaled bone animation for stuff like squash and stretch.
So you mean in humanoid, right? In our retargeter.
In any animation.
Because any animation, it's working. You can do this right now, just to scale. You want to shear or you want to scale?
Well, it's stretchy bones specifically that I had an artist request about.
Okay, but currently you can do that if you use generic animation. Like if you have a weapon, you can scale it how you want, and it's going to work. And it has been like this forever. It's just that we cannot scale in the retargeting system. And this, we don't have short-term plan to have like.
Okay, thanks.
Hi.
Hello.
My question is a little bit more on the scripting side. So there are methods for recording an animator, but there are none for exporting or importing them so we can serialize them or anything. Is there a plan for this in the future?
There's no short-term plans to do that. Like,
Like even in opaque format that we don't understand, just like a byte array.
Yeah. Like, are there many people that would like us to do that? Is this something that, because for us, yeah. Obviously. But for us, it's just a matter of taking the time to do it. We have all the mechanism underneath. We would have to do a nice API to handle that because, yeah. But there's no short-term plan to do that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, that is nice with the timing to move to WebGL. Oh, we have one. Okay, last question on audio.
Just one.
Animation.
Any more IK tools for real-time types of motion capture, since such that we're seeing in the Vive, Crescent Moon, or anything like that, that's going to help out the VR side of things?
I mean, it's going to be part of what I just wrote, the playable procedural nodes. This can be seen as IK, and then will we provide like new types of IK like stock? I'm not sure that this is on the short-term plan, but you can always, like, since you have those procedural nodes, you can blend from a mocap pose and then to IK or stuff like that. So this will be possible, but like you would have to write your own IK that you would like to have, like a CCD or things like that.
All right,
thanks.
WebGL.
Okay, so this area will maybe be slightly different because a lot of the things I'll be talking about will actually be technologies browser vendors are implementing which we have to integrate. Which also makes it very hard to give any timelines because we're basically looking at waiting for all these technologies to show up in all major browsers. So to take away the first question, when are we going to drop the preview label? I can't tell you for precisely this reason. There's just too many external dependencies. But let's talk about what those are. So first, we will get hardware parallelism in WebGL using the SIMD.js spec and using shared array buffers, which will allow us to run our multi-threaded code in JavaScript, which will both serve quite a lot to narrow the performance gap between JavaScript and native code. I expect that at some point in the future we'll also allow user code to run threads, but that's a more difficult problem than for our code because of some GC issues where we still have to do some research on how to implement those on WebGL. Then in terms of memory, right now memory is a very big constraint for WebGL content. The biggest improvement we'll see there is WebAssembly, which is a new technology which will turn JavaScript, or which will implement basically a bytecode format for JavaScript, which takes away most of the memory usage and startup time for parsing all the code we generate and will make the whole pipeline much more efficient. Then we will do LZ4 compression of the player data, which means that all this data which we have to keep in memory because we don't have a real file system will become much smaller. And we will work on improving our code stripping so that the build output will be smaller. And one of the things we'll be doing there, which is going to benefit not only WebGL, is that we will have a build report in Unity which when you make a player build, it will give you a lot of details about where the build size is being spent and why your build is so big. So it will allow you to profile build size, basically. So on the graphics area, we will have the WebGL 2.0 API, which basically mirrors GLES 3.0. So we will no longer be stuck on graphics API, which is basically on the status of mobiles, of last generation mobiles. This will be followed by 2.1, which mirrors GLES 3.1. So this will put the graphics on WebGL up to a higher level. We'll also remove some hard-coded limitations where we hard-coded some decisions in our shader generation code to graphics APIs. So you have simplified shadows which were made for mobile, where on WebGL we could really be doing nicer shadows and doing soft shadows. This will be in 5.3, at least partially. So, yeah, any questions? No questions about WebGL? There's one.
Actually, if there's more people that have questions, feel free to just line up so that we don't lose that much time in the middle.
What do I lose if I use WebGL project?
Sorry?
What would I lose if I use a WebGL project compared to standard like iOS target or Android target?
Which features do you miss if you export to WebGL?
Okay.
Threading.
So yeah, there's a few features we haven't ported to WebGL yet. Others which are not supported by the platform. I'm doing a talk at 1:30 today where I'll give a more complete list, but it's like, as I said, threading doesn't work right now. There's like Substance and Lighten, some audio features which don't work on the platform yet. If you want the complete list, check out our docs or go check out the talk later.
Thank you.
Of this thing you just discussed, how much will it be there in the 12 months?
As I said, it's hard to predict because it's external dependencies. So I think we will see a lot of these technologies, at least in Firefox and many in Chrome as well, showing up over the next year. Microsoft has also been making great progress on this, and they've become much more open about their development. Apple, we're seeing them also pick up a lot of these, but Apple is talking less about it, so we don't know their plans as precisely. But for instance, for WebAssembly, which is one of those I'm most excited about, there was a joint announcement basically of all 4 vendors. Well, Apple didn't quite announce it, but they're hinting at it, so that's very nice to see.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. Is there any plan to have WebGL working on mobile devices, especially on some lower-end devices like iPad 2?
Right. So there's no specific plan, or there's also nothing specifically not allowing this. Right now, if you try to do it, we send a warning. Well, we show a warning that it's not supported. But actually, like if you have beefy high-end devices, preferably running Firefox, it will actually work quite well for some content. But realistically, you want it on the low-end devices, and we're still far from that. But the challenges to get there are the same challenges we have on the desktop. So it's the same technologies outlined here, which you will need to have that. So I'm very confident that we'll be there eventually, but I can't really give a timeline.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, last 2 questions on WebGL.
Have you started looking at web VR or any plans to support that?
We have been looking at it a bit. No specific plans, but it's only really a matter of somebody finding time to play around with it, because it sounds very exciting.
Yeah. Sure. Now, do you have any plans to open up more customizing the data that comes out for WebGL? So if we wanted to customize, let's say, wrappers or titles or any more of the JavaScript side, so it's not so much of getting the export, stripping out what we don't want. Can we get more of that on the Unity side instead of having to do so much post work?
I'm not quite sure what you're trying to achieve. If you say the data which comes out, do you mean like the HTML page around it and all the JavaScript, the boilerplate to integrate it into custom pages?
Yeah. If we could get more control of it, so we're not just constantly stripping out and trying to figure out. Because right now, when you export out, we don't know exactly what each object does, and so if we wanted to customize it more and add more interactivity on top of it later.
Right. So we support customization of the output page by putting in HTML templates, but I think right now the generated JavaScript to embed the output into the page is a bit too messy, and I'm not happy with that. So I'd really like to have us spend some time on making a nice API for integrating it into any arbitrary page easily. We just haven't found the time to work on that yet, but it's on our to-do list.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
So next up, I guess, is scripting. Lucas.
All right, scripting. What did I put first? So we're in the prototype research phase for a mono behavior replacement without the magic methods and with some more sane lifecycle events. Like right now, you can get into these crazy situations where you can sometimes get on enable twice and then only one on disable, and it's from many people we hear that this is really a pain to work with. So the plan is still forming, but right now, sort of what we're thinking is that we'll add a C# class that will live next to mono behavior, maybe something like script behavior, and that we sort of use that opportunity to sort of like fix our design mistakes from 10 years ago. And we want to make sure that we, because like we only get to do that, I guess, once every 10 years. So we so we want to make sure that we get it right. So if you have strong opinions on that, please come see us at the Meet the Expert session. Next up, what about the .NET upgrade? It's tricky. So for us, when we do a .NET upgrade, it affects the entire ecosystem. And when we do one, it's gonna take everyone. Everyone will have to do some work to actually adapt to that. And if we do that twice in a too short amount of time, everyone's gonna be super pissed at us. And and we also cannot do like the flip switch of like, well, my project uses the old .NET and this new project uses the new one, because then you can sort of like this fragmentation in the ecosystem, and then this asset store package only works on the new one, but then the other one only on the old one. And it's tricky because Microsoft is working on .NET Core, which is sort of like their new plan of what the .NET profile is going to look like in the future. And it looks really, it actually looks really great, but it's not done yet. So we're sort of still figuring out, okay, are we going to upgrade to 4.5? Because that's something that we could kind of do now, but then quickly after would have to, do it again. Or are we going to, hold our breath a little bit and update straight to .NET Core? We haven't made a decision on it yet. I guess that's not what everyone was hoping to hear. Next up, mono development debugger improvements. So Unity 5.2 ships with Visual Studio, which is amazing and cool for Windows users, but a bit meh for Mac people. In 5.3, we'll ship mono develop 5.9, and in the process of doing that, we've also made a lot of fixes to the debugger. Actually, mono develop often gets blamed for like if there's debugger problems, but in reality, these problems are actually in Unity itself. So, we've sort of been tackling that problem from both ends, and we have plans for after 5.3 to actually do a new sort of like script integration where we don't have this stuff where we generate project files and that Unity and Visual Studio or mono develop are both fighting over the same files and the solution has to be reloaded all the time. But we kind of want mono develop or Visual Studio to talk directly to Unity. And that we don't have this intermediate step of the project files and these problems where the Visual Studio or the mono develop compile is actually slightly different from the Unity one. That's all problems that we want to get rid of. On the ILT CPP front, we actually have no big, enormous features that are coming. We do have a lot of stuff that we're working on, but everything is sort of like we'll deliver everything like in small improvements. So, we're always working on making it faster, making the output smaller, and something that is probably the biggest pain point right now is just that it's faster to build, because I guess there's many people here in the room that when they start ILT CPP build that they go grab a cup of coffee. That's what I do. All right, that's my part for scripting. So let's open the floor for some questions. On the left?
And two quick questions, if that's okay. First question is, are we going to see IL2 CPP for Vita anytime soon?
I think it shipped. Did it ship? Do we have someone? It did not ship?
It's in place. I don't think it's shipped yet.
Say what? 5.3.
Okay, great. So, second question is about input. And so I have a game that is on PC, Mac, Linux, PS4, PS3, Vita, soon Wii U, and probably some other platforms. And controller support has been really challenging within Unity, just because it's hard to tell, what controller is connected. If somebody connects, a DS4 on their Linux machine, it kind of comes through with one name, and that's the only thing that we have in Unity, and so we're kind of resorting to all these asset store packages to make up the gaps and stuff.
So we think our input support is horrible. It was made 7 years ago. We never did anything to make it better because something else was always more important. But we have 4 guys working on, 3 guys and 1 girl, I should say, working on a new input system. And I think Joe has a little piece about it in his section.
We'll get to it.
Okay.
In the middle?
Yeah, any future support for F# planned?
It's in the, that would be nice, but we have this huge list of stuff that people are screaming at us to get done first. Like, it's not that we don't like it or that we want to put something in the way of using it. It's just that you wouldn't have to find like 100 friends to scream with you to make more noise than the .NET profile update.
Can I get 50 in here?
Yeah, can we show some hands for F#?
All right. Thank you.
On the right?
With the announcement of the Visual Studio Code support for Mac, do you guys plan on incorporating that?
That's a good question. I mean, so on like in the area of like code editors and code editors that work well with .NET, like the last year has been pretty interesting because you've had like all these editors and this, what's the name of that server? The OmniSharp stuff, and you have all these editors that use it. It's something we're looking at. It's a bit hard because Visual Studio Code uses a newer version of Mono than the one we have, and the debugger protocol is not exactly the same. So, like it's something we're interested in, and like I actually have on my to-do list to spend like a Friday to see if we can do something fast to make this OmniSharp thing work better, so that it's at least easier for people to get their own editors to work. But there's no one gonna scream that it's gonna be in 5.3 here.
Any idea if the mono behavior replacement would also handle tighter handling of coroutines and asynchronous methods inside of game scripts?
What do you mean with tighter?
Less name of function based, better able to track whether they're finished, delayed invoke, scheduled invoke, that sort of stuff. It's kind of very...
So they're not necessarily tied to each other, but I do think that it makes sense to do that. Like I think right now there's not even a great way to actually check if a coroutine is finished.
Yeah, you have to.
Or at least it's hard to look it up in the docs because I can never figure out how it was that you should do it. So it's something that we would like to improve, but it's not necessarily one-on-one tied with mono behavior replacement. Okay, I'm going to take 2 more questions on scripting, if I have time.
Yeah, hi. We're working primarily in VR, both mobile and desktop, and we're finding ourselves short on frame time.
Join the club.
Yeah. So we're using. We've got things on multiple threads and time slicing work and stuff. And I'm curious if, with VR becoming bigger, if there might be a push to expose more SIMD stuff directly in the scripting?
Well, let me postpone that question to Joachim's section because he won't shut up about it.
Great.
Okay, one more.
So is there any plans to support polymorphic serialization for scriptable objects?
Whew, so scriptable objects are actually the only ones that do support it. But everywhere else, it doesn't work.
Well, and mono behavior is also possible.
Yeah, so, mono behavior too. That's a tough. Oof. So, you know what we're going to do? So, a year ago, I wrote an enormous long blog post about why that is hard. If you read it and then find me at the Meet the Experts, we'll talk about it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, for the people with scripting questions that I didn't manage to get to, we have, 2-3 people on the scripting table in the Meet the Experts. Please don't be shy and come ask your questions there. Next up is networking.
Right. Thank you, Lucas. So networking, yeah. Yesterday you guys heard Rob Pardo talk about how multiplayer is going to be the future of the games industry, and yeah, we couldn't agree more. Our vision in the networking team is anyone who wants to make a multiplayer game, any kind of multiplayer game, should be able to do this. And it's really hard problem to solve. So we're focusing on solving these problems for you, because that's what we do. And any kind of multiplayer means everything from like one-on-one to massively multiplayer, open streaming worlds. And you don't just solve that problem in one go. So we've chunked this up into phases. And we've published a bit of our roadmap for these phases on the Unity website, which you can see. But most recently, we shipped phase 1 in 5.1. We call that our multiplayer foundation. So this provides a new transport layer based on UDP with accessible via an API for networking engineers, and a set of editor components that non-networking engineers can use to make a multiplayer game. And then the Matchmaker and relay servers to help solve the other problems of players finding each other and being able to connect to each other. And you can actually hear more about those things later today, the talk given by Jeremy Martin and Lars Olafsson. And we're continuing to improve phase 1, like based on feedback we've been getting from you guys at previous Unites and on the forums. We've added host migration support to the editor components, the high-level API, and that's going out in 5.3. And then, and of course, we continue to fix bugs and improve performance and add additional metrics on the back end, and this will always continue. But then we also are turning our eye towards phase 2, where we start to implement more server authoritative gaming, making it possible for more kinds of multiplayer games, more like arena-based things. So we have this idea of a simulation server, which if you don't know how to make an authoritative game server, then we'll have you covered for that. And you can use the simulation server to run your game logic in the cloud that Unity is taking care of as well. And but if you do know how to write your own game server and you don't want to use Unity's solution, then we have the server library. And the server library is coming to you guys in 5.4. The simulation server will take a couple of releases, but the first really rough version of this will also be in 5.4. And our thought there is that we want to get something out into the wild and usable by you guys sooner, and then get your feedback, and then make it better as we go, so we can make it better together. And then in the future, phase 3, if you want to make a real massively multiplayer kind of game, then you need to coordinate multiple simulation servers. And so we have this concept of the master simulation server, which will handle this for you. But maybe we can publish a blog post about that in coming weeks or months, and give you a bit more of our thoughts. So that's our roadmap. Any questions? Wow, there's one.
Hello.
Hello.
My question is a bit mixed between networking and scripting, but do you have or do you know of any support for deterministic simulation, like ensuring that the server will run the same code as on a mobile client or a PC client?
So the way we're trying to do that, to solve that, is to have our simulation server be essentially a Unity client, right? A headless client, but much better than what we've got now with the batch mode, right? So so it's running the exact same stuff on the server as on the client, and corrections from servers to client are minimized. I mean, it'll never go to 0, right? But
yes.
Yeah.
So, for example, what I was afraid is like a random execution of different monobehavior order between the client and the server, so that small errors make the simulation differ. For example, to make a lockstep game, and we need the floating point operations and the order of execution of the scripts to be the same on every client.
Yeah, so I mean, we don't have a lockstep solution in phase 1. You can implement your own in phase 1 if you use this lower level API.
Okay.
So So yeah, the networking model implicit in the high-level API is more of a client server, where a client is a host and a player, right? Or one of them is. But if you want to do more of this like lockstep model, then yeah, you can implement that yourself using the low-level API and talk directly to the transport layer.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Yes?
Yeah, I took a look at networking in 5.1 and noticed it was missing any support for dead reckoning, which was the most important for me. But I guess once you get the server library and stuff in there, client-side prediction will also be really important. Do you guys have plans to automatically take care of that?
It is on our roadmap. I thought we actually had some support for dead reckoning. Are you sure we don't have that in 5.1?
I don't think so.
You should stop by the Ask the Experts networking table, and we can talk about that more.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Right here.
Hi, Eric.
Hey, man.
So Unity will own and run servers in the cloud that are running Unity client. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's the idea, because not everybody knows how to set up their own data center.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to have a solution for people that can just make multiplayer games and just make it work.
What's the fee structure going to be for that?
Yeah. So we're still trying to figure that out, because it's not cheap to run things in the cloud. Bandwidth is actually very expensive, and but at the same time we want to actually give this stuff to you guys so that you can make cool games. We have to try to find this balance, and we're coming to these Unites, talking to you guys, trying to get more feedback on like what would make sense. Like, would you want to do a pay-as-you-go, or do you want to just do a simple like monthly subscription? Or yeah, I mean, if anybody has any thoughts about that, I would really love to talk to you today or tomorrow.
Yeah, I think they're going to say it should be free.
Yeah, of course. Okay, but then in the real world, when you can't get everything for free, like what would make the most sense?
Pay for use.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Right, we're going to do 2 more questions on networking.
Yes.
We do a lot of audio across multiple clients, and for that we need UDP, where you can tolerate drop package. Would the transport layer support that?
Yes, the transport layer is actually implemented as UDP, and we have a number of quality of service settings that you can choose and configure that will give you like a reliable UDP or even like a TCP-like sort of thing. So yeah, you can just use it as is.
And then would there be fallback to TCP or WebSockets if it's necessary, let's say behind a proxy?
We don't have TCP at the moment, but we do have WebSockets for WebGL.
Okay, how about?
Well, I know that's sort of the same
I mean,
thing,
how about
but-
for installed apps then?
I'm sorry?
How about for installed apps like Windows builds or Mac builds?
Does it fall back to TCP?
Would there be a fallback to TCP or WebSockets and the transport layer?
No, right now it's just
I believe the UNet servers support incoming WebSocket connections from WebGL clients to standalone. So they have a WebSocket server they're running.
for WebGL, but for just like a normal, like, yeah, maybe I misunderstood your question.
Yeah, I'm asking specifically for standalone clients. Could you
Right.
fall back to something like WebSockets if you needed to?
Yeah.
I mean, the standalone supports the WebSocket connections to connect to
Right.
to WebGL, so I expect it shouldn't be hard to make them talk to each other. But I guess somebody on your team would know the answer.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds. I think I misunderstand what you're looking for, but maybe you come by the table today. Cool. Was there time for one more? Or are we?
Yeah, last networking question.
Last one.
So kind of going away from simulation servers, just regular servers and databases, do you guys have a plan for just cloud storage and databases for other games?
Yeah, there are plans, but there's a team in Helsinki that's working on these things. I'm not sure what their timeline looks like.
I can mention it. I can mention that.
Oh,
Okay, well, answer that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we have a service that's in way deep alpha called CloudDB or Cloud Data, and it's currently just a key value store for syncing data variables from a single source in our database to game clients. And we're talking to the other teams about what the use cases are for things like multiplayer. Right now it's really about game balancing, but it has a ton of applications. A/B testing is another one that comes up a lot. So if you're interested in that, come talk to us. The team is here, or find us at ask the experts.
Thanks.
All right.
All right.
Joachim?
Cool. So yeah, the first thing is multi-scene edit in Unity 5.3. So basically being able to open, save multiple scenes, being able to move objects between them. We will have a team actually starting work on nested prefabs once multi-scene edit ships. So that's hopefully this year. Always the same response on nested prefabs.
We should not ship it for a while. Do this again next year.
Oh, wow, tough crowd.
So then, I mean, we spent a lot of time on performance, just generally jobifying the engine, getting most of the engine code out of the main thread and so on, like various different subsystems. And when we looked at how we want to jobify script code, we will probably expose an API to create jobs from scripts and work with that. But I think really the right way of approaching it is having a dedicated C# backend where you can do really high performance computation of large sets of data. So if you imagine the concepts that you have in a compute shader, I think that concept is a really good concept, but there's a lot of problems with it. Like, for example, you can't run it on a CPU. You can't run it on all platforms. You have very poor tooling support, and you have shitty interop between C# and compute shaders. But what if you could write the compute shader directly in C# and you just wrote it in a specific way, and then we took that code and we could run it on a GPU, on a CPU, and we would make it run faster than you could possibly write C++ code. I think if we did that, that would be mind-blowing. So that's what we want to try. It's ambitious, but I think it will change the world. Then we have a team working on input, actually. So they just finished their first prototype of how it works. There's a low-level system and a high-level system, so you can plug in at any level, have a lot of control over it, and it will take concepts like, touch input and, like gestures and these kind of things all into one system that that is much more high level, but at the same time you can go into the low level if you just want to get a stream of events. On the terrain system, our focus is actually right now not so much on the height maps and texturing. What we want to do instead is we want to do the things that you put on top of the terrain really well. And in fact, we don't want to tie that specifically to terrains. We want to make basically a whole pipeline around instancing, so that would be grass, rocks, trees, debris, decals, these kind of things. And we want to make that insanely fast. Like, basically, you could just paint onto arbitrary meshes and fill your world with detail objects. So you could easily have, so the goal would be you place 10 million instances in your world, and Unity takes care of efficiently storing the data, efficiently rendering the data, and efficiently culling the data. And that is basically, instead of sort of like investing into this really specialized terrain system, which I think it's better to build something generic, because once you have a really great instancing pipeline, there's huge amounts of different use cases for it, and I think that kind of leverage is a really good thing. Then the last part that I think is a really big thing, I mean, like some of these are really far out, like the high performance compute scripting and asset import pipeline. But with the asset import pipeline, we want to move the importing to a separate process, communicate between the import process and the UI process via a REST service, and effectively end up in a place where you can open a 100 gigabyte project in 20 seconds because everything is done on demand, and only the things that you actually need are being imported on the fly. And then, of course, great support for dependencies in the import pipeline. Everything is hashed. Even moving the library folder out of the project and moving it to be shared between all projects. Those kind of things. Just really scaling the asset pipeline to be, to work much better in big projects, but also in small projects, just so you can open projects really fast and asynchronously in the background. It just keeps importing things. So that's some of the big items, but there's many, many more in core. So we can start with questions.
So it's exciting to hear about your plans for a terrain instancing pipeline. Will that have specific support for procedurally generated terrains and
yes,
planets and worlds and things like that?
Yes, so basically the instancing pipeline is like we're trying to build this in a very generic way where you could fill the data, like we store it really efficiently, but you could also generate that data on the fly from a script. I mean, basically it's a tile-based architecture with really good support for LOD and so on.
Thank you.
Yep.
Are you the right person to ask about Profiler? I really enjoy the Profiler, but getting data out of it without using undocumented internal objects is a bit difficult. So if I want to, run a profile and say, give me 4 reports about this given environment, is there a good way to do that in the future?
Like performance
Like,
reports?
yeah, like use the Profiler, you can look at it, that's great, but if I want to actually print out reports and automate that process, like...
So have you looked at the Profiler API has basically everything, like everything that we do in the timeline window and in the hierarchy window is exposed.
Right, it's all in the internal undocumented objects. Because like right now you can get a file out, but that gives you the FPS, and that's not what I need. I need the overview.
Okay,
Like
for now I would start using the internal API. I kind of forgot that it's an internal API. I'm not sure now, but but yeah, it would definitely make sense that these kind of APIs are made public because I agree with you. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Hey, is there a plan for the new input to have a chain of command? So one component can say, I'm handling the E key, and then,
We are panically looking for Renee in the room.
Is Renee here?
Oh.
No?
I think I heard him talking about that though.
Okay, so
think
probably. But if you want to know, go to the RC expert table. There's people who are actually working on the input system, and they know the details.
Okay, thanks.
Ask for Renee.
Yeah.
Hi. Just have a question about the prefabs. So right now, if you have a prefab that has a bunch of children, if I want to edit one of the children in the prefab, like I have to bring it into the hierarchy and make the change and then save it off. Is there a way to like eventually do that like directly in the asset without bringing it into the hierarchy?
Right. So instead, the workflow we want to make is actually that you just have an edit button and it gets you into a mode where you see only that prefab without unloading the scene. So it's a very quick workflow that is non-interruptive and where you don't have to like instantiate it and delete it afterwards. So we'll make it a really nice workflow, but I think it makes sense to reuse the hierarchy window to do this editing of the data, if that makes sense. Yeah?
All right.
Cool.
So one of the top most requested features in the Unity suggestions feedback page, I think it's like number 20 or something, has been native 3D mouse support, and it's been there for like 2 years, and I've never heard anything about it. Is that still being planned?
I don't know about such plans. It's yeah. Like, so you mean like in the editor basically, right?
Yeah, to support like a Space Navigator or other 3D mouse natively.
Yeah, that's interesting.
We should talk with Renee about that.
Yes.
We should. I mean, you're talking about an input device, right?
I am, yeah.
Yeah.
And it has, I mean, it already has high support in the place where I think we should give our support in that. So I don't know how else to yell to support that.
Okay.
I think it sounds like, hey, Renee.
Hey, Renee. Thanks.
Hey, Renee.
She's too busy working on the new input to be.
Yeah.
So
we're going to take 2 more core questions, by the way.
Okay. I've heard rumblings about replacing the www class or augmenting it. Can you confirm or deny that? Or
in 5.2, there is a new API called Web Request, and that is meant to replace the www class.
Okay, so
It's
what
in
is it?
Experimental mode, and that is something we are pushing out to more platforms. And once we have it on all platforms, we will make it non-experimental.
Do you have like a roadmap for other platforms, like when it's going to go to like WebGL or iOS or Android?
I believe
It supports WebGL, and I think iOS is in 5.3.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about iOS, but I think 5.3.
And what kind of stuff does it do? Like, does it do the header stuff? Cookies?
Yes. Yes, it does the headers. I mean, it does headers. It has. It's also much more efficient. Like there were some problems with the WW class about like memory consumption and how it was dealing with streaming data. So like it's just a complete rewrite with a redesign in mind. So look at the API, and if there's something that you think is missing, then go to Ask the Experts, because we definitely want to address it before we ship it. But I'm pretty sure it's a really solid API. But
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I'm sorry, guys. I said 2 questions, but but we have to move on to Cloud Build. Otherwise, I break my promise that I'd get off the stage at 15.
Yeah, I'll be here after the talk. So
yeah,
if
like,
you have questions, you can come up.
Right. Actually, I think there's a talk. No, we have like there's 15 minutes of break in between. So we'll all just stay here. So if we didn't get to your question, just hit us up. Oh, you, Patrick.
All right. I'm going to click once. Thanks. So in Cloud Build, we just shipped a ton of new features which are in beta, and so we very actively want feedback on the new platforms we support: Windows Desktop, Mac OS X, and Linux. The build target system is a big change to the UI and sort of the mental model of Cloud Build, so please try that and let us know what you think. That lets you configure a single project for multiple different OSs or for the same OS multiple different ways. And then added OBB support for Google Play. So that's if you have an extra large binary, Google makes you upload 2 files, APK and an OBB file. And we'll now generate both of them for you, and you can download it as a zip file. The stuff that is like on our soon list, based on your feedback in the feedback site, is Unity test tool support. So we will currently run your unit tests. You just don't know that because you can't see them in Cloud Build yet. So we're working to make it easy for you to get those reports, download them. If you're using Unity test tools and you have specific requests, let us know. And also, we're opening up our REST API. A big part of this new beta site is a new REST API that controls the brains behind Cloud Build, and we want to expose that to you and let you script and customize the REST API. And we're also testing webhooks. So this will let us, or rather let you receive a message back from Cloud Build when something's done. So if you want to do like a Slack integration or notification when a build is ready or something like that, you could script that up yourself. And then WebGL will probably be the next platform that we support in Cloud Build. Makes sense. It's a web-based service. So if you're currently using Cloud Build and have a WebGL project, come say hi and let us know. We want to talk to you about that. And then the later stuff, the stuff that's on our mind, is just deeper editor integration, right? Sort of our goal is that anything that you can do in the Unity editor on your desktop, you should be able to do that in Cloud Build in one way or another. That's sort of like our driving mission. And you know, if your daily workflow in the editor could be better by Cloud Build, letting you get that information in the editor on sort of a moment-to-moment basis. And then asset bundle support is something that's come up a lot, and so finding a good pipeline for compiling not just your project, but also compiling your asset bundles and then sending those asset bundles to wherever you want to host them. So if you're using asset bundles and have an interest in Cloud Build, we also want to talk to you about that. And then more platforms, right? Unity supports tons and tons of platforms, so there's always more compilers and platforms to support. And that's what we're up to, so we'll take questions if y'all have them. On the left?
Asset server support.
Asset server support. So we're looking at it. Think you should come talk to our guys and tell us how you use it, and we'll talk to you about that. In the middle?
So you're talking about running Unity test tools in the cloud. Is there any plans to run more comprehensive tests in the cloud?
Yes, we're looking at a couple ways to do that. We run Unity in a headless mode, so there's certain integration tests that we can't do in the current setup. But if you have integration tests you want to talk about, come find us here or at the Ask the Experts table. And then there's on-device testing. We've gotten some requests for that. It's pretty fascinating to us. And so if you're currently doing automated on-device testing, I'd like to hear how you're doing that, what it does, what it doesn't do for you that you want it to, because that's sort of on our like exploratory list.
It seems like it should be possible to optimize your asset bundle breakup via testing in the cloud.
Yeah, ideally. We're also looking at, I mean, anything that the mobile teams are supporting, like app thinning for iOS, we want to make sure that we tie in well with that from Cloud Build, and that also touches on asset bundles. So that's on our mind for sure.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right.
So previously, when we were doing Cloud Build for different environments like testing or development, we use different branches from our repository. So we had different projects for each. Does the new build target allow me to, for example, have iOS pull this branch or this other branch in a single project?
Yes. So what we've done is the root of any project in Cloud Build is the source control URL, and then each build target can pull from a different branch, or if it's SVN, a different subfolder or subdirectory, and then have custom defines and different scripts based on those targets. You can also sign differently, so like if you have a provisioning profile for your QA team and a different provisioning profile for the publishing team, you can make 2 different build targets for the same platform with different credentials.
Thanks.
Yep.
So this goes back to the Unity test tools. Is that like automated multiple device cloud testing?
No, not yet. So Unity test tools is the unit test framework, so that runs in the editor just on your code in C# on the bite-sized nuggets of code. The on-device testing is something that's exploratory. We're interested in it, but not there yet.
Okay, but that's the plan, is to possibly add it then?
I would put it on the possibly list, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yep, thank you.
Hi. Are there any plans to create a self-hosted version of any of the cloud tools that you currently have?
That is a great question. So we get that request often. Let me ask you, why do you want it?
Our company that we work with has security implications and restrictions that we can't use cloud.
Yeah, that's the most common reason we hear for that. So the thing we want to do first is we want to make it where everyone using Unity can make a build in the same method that Cloud Build does. So we're talking to the editor team about how to do that. I think once we have that, it'd be much easier for us to give you tools where you can replicate or use pieces of the Cloud Build technology in your environment. But if you have like a super urgent pressing need, come find us, and we'd like to hear more about the hows and whys.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
When you hook up the Unity test tools, are you going to connect those to the REST API and webhooks?
We should. We just wrote that down.
All right.
Can I
Thanks,
just say
everyone.
One more thing? Sorry, can I just say one more thing? One thing we've talked about is the experimental namespace that we're kind of pushing new APIs to. And one thing we kind of wanted to note is that, like, it doesn't mean that they're broken, or it doesn't mean that they're, I guess, not working. So don't fear the namespace. It just means that we want to be able to change the API if we got something wrong, like minorly. So yeah, don't think that it's something that is like a completely broken feature. It just means that we may want to change the API a little bit later on, and we don't want to have to go through this massive upgrade process and deprecation and stuff like that. So that's why we're doing it.
All right, that's that wraps up the roadmap session. A few more things about the party. Bring your what's it called? Badge. Do you call it a badge?
Yeah, it's a badge.
Bring this thing and an idea, like identification. We will hang out here until they kick us out, and after that we'll be at Meet the Experts. I hope you guys are having a great show. Thanks for coming, and have a good time.
Thank you.